Hello again. Welcome to a training video on the security system in PayPak Professional 4.0 and other Greynote software products. This video focuses on the email settings screen. There are other related videos which explain specific security features in greater detail, and I recommend that you invest a few minutes to take a look at them and master your knowledge of the security system. So let's log in and show you how it works. The security system is accessed under the admin section of the menu, and it's this button here at the end. The security options are for administrators only. Regular users and supervisors are not allowed access to security. So we click on the button and this brings up the main security screen. This screen is divided into, this screen has some options on it. There's logins, groups, users, the option to reset the table rights. Now there's a video for this section here, the logins, groups, and users. There's a video on that which includes this part. There is the database access. There's a menu for that. There's a training video for that. There is menu access. There's a training video for that. Report access, again, that also has its own training demo. Email settings, that's the focus of this particular video. That's the one you're looking at right now. So let's click on the email settings button and open the window. Now we'll begin with a brief explanation of how this screen works. Then we'll look at a layout of the screen, and then we'll go into detail on how it works. The purpose of the email settings screen is to configure email accounts. You will have existing email accounts. They're most likely business email accounts for the most part, and you want to be able to go to a section of a screen. Maybe it's payslips, maybe it's invoices, maybe it's statements, quotations, whatever sort of document, and generate emails from within the software. This makes it much more convenient than having to say print a payslip, save it as a PDF, then go to your email software, pick up the attachment, and email the payslip to the designated recipient. Or it could be a statement or an invoice or a receipt or whatever the case may be. Within PayPak Professional and other Greynote software products, you can also email reports. If you look at the video which we have for the reports email manager, you will see exactly how to use that section of the software. Now, both that email manager and the other email manager found in our software, because there are two of them, these are screens which will appear when you want to email a document. And let's see if I can show you one of them. For example, we have some in payslips and we have some in email employees. So we go to payslips and I do a display and I click on email, and this is the dialog window, the email manager, which comes up, allows me to email the selected payslips, and it has here an account. This account is created in the security section of the software, and this is something that typically your IT administrative people would do for you. Now, as I mentioned before, there are two email managers. This email manager is in screens It's found in screens where you've got a set of documents. In this case, these are payslips, and it's emailing 6 payslips here. And those 6 payslips are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those 6. Now, this is a case where you have a set of documents, one or more documents, and each one is attached to a particular email address. Okay, that's the concept here. And what will happen is the system is going to email these documents one after the other. They'll be sent out. And this is a case where these are separate documents going to multiple recipients. Okay, so one's going to this person, one to this person, one here, one here, one here, and one here. Now, there are other screens similar to this. You can be invoicing maybe statements. You could be invoicing a list of invoices of you could be emailing a list of invoices from for a particular date, sending emails out to customers. And in that case, each invoice belongs to a separate customer, and the customer has their own email address. So you will note that this screen does not contain an email address for the recipient, because that information is tied to the documents which are being processed by this screen. Now, as I said, you need an account, and that's what this video is about, to show you how those accounts are created. Let me close this screen now, and let's go to another screen which has an email. This is a email report sort of screen. I'm going to do a display here. This screen is for emailing employees. Actually, this is also one with individual. No, this is multiple ones. But anyway, let's select all of them. There are 40 of them. You click on email. All right, this is the same email manager actually from that one. What I want is the email manager from the report screen. So this is the same one because there are documents here with individual. This would send a notice or a message, or with or without attachments, to each of the recipients in this list. These are separate emails. What I really want is in standard reports, we have, let's say we want to print out a list of the accounts. This is it here. I'm going to email it from here, from within the print manager. So I click on print, and up comes an email manager for reports, email manager dash reports. Now in this case, you've got the account again, but it also has a recipient. Now in this case, this recipient happens to be someone who's saved in the settings. I'm just going to clear that out. Excuse me. Come back, and we're going to do that again, and this time you will see exactly. This is what that screen looks like without settings. There's no settings now. So the recipient screen is blank. There's no subject, there's no message. What this email manager allows you to do is take a report which you've generated in the report screen and email it to recipients. So I could say Santa Claus at jinglebells.com. So this email is going to Santa Claus at jinglebells.com, and you can type your subject, you can type your message and send it, and off it goes. The same requirement, however, is that you must have an account to send it by. And by an account, we mean that's an email address registered within the software, and that's done inside of the security email settings screen. So we're going to go back to that now, and I'm going to show you how that works. Now these emails, I'll point out, these email addresses the accounts that come up in here, these are linked to the user who was signed in. So in my case, I've signed in as the administrator, and this is my account, the email account linked to me. If someone else signed in and they did exactly this, but they were not, they didn't have an email account set up, it would not appear in that list. And let me sign in maybe as user 1 and show you how that works. I sign in as user 1, I enter my password, I log in, I go to reports, standard reports, and this works regardless of whether it's the regular email manager or the email manager in the reports. And now I click on email and there's no account. Without an account, I cannot email this document, nor can I email payslips. I have access to the payslips here. I click on display, I click on email, and again, there's no account. So I cannot send out emails to these 6 employees who have payslips for that batch on the 14th of May. Now, to set up an email for user 1, this is what the purpose of the screen will show you. Well, let's give you a layout of the screen first before we do that. At the top of the screen, you've got the name of the server you're connected to, the name of the database you're connected to. There's an option here for group or user. There's an ID and a name, and this refers to the list of groups and users, the one that you've currently highlighted, whichever one is highlighted. So it starts off, the very first one in the list was the group called Office, and that's why you see this information here. Okay, as I scroll through the list, that information there will change. At the right of the screen, we have some totals. Now, there is a selected, excluded, and total count, and that refers to the column in the list of groups and users. So if I select 3 of them here and I select 1 of them there, you'll see that that count changes as I turn on or off the items. There's also an all button and a none button. If I select all records are selected. If I select none, no records are selected. So that this segment, this little array of 3 totals, represents the selection count. To the right of that, there's a count of the email accounts, and the email accounts is, you look through this column here, and wherever there's a client, well, I think there must also be a sender name, but wherever there's a client in this column, that represents an email account that's being configured, which is why you were able to see my email account when I tried to email the documents, because right now mine is the only one that's set up and it's only for me. When user 1 signed in, user 1 did not see my information. There was nothing there for user 1. So what we're going to do, we're going to set up an account for user 1, but just bear with me a little bit longer. I just want to explain the difference between groups and users. To do that, let's go to the users section of security, and this brings up the user screen. And this is a list of logins. There are 13 logins in the list, of which 12 of them are users. This login called test user is not a user because there's no entry for them in the user ID column. Of these 12 users, 1 is an administrator, here, Steve Corbin. 3 of them are supervisors, supervisor 1, supervisor 2, and supervisor 3. And the other 8 are regular users. Now, the email settings screen is similar to the database access screen, the menu access screen, and the report access screen, except that unlike the others, it lists users who may happen to be administrators. So Steve Corbin is a user. He has a user account, user ID of SA. That's listed in here. In most other parts of the security system, you do not see the administrator being selected because the administrator has full access to the resources in the database and other sections of the software. However, if you want to send email through using the administrator login, you must set the administrator. You must give the administrator user ID because you require a user ID in order to send out emails. Right. So the group called Office. At the top of the list, first of all, we have the groups. And there are two groups. There's a group called Office and there's a group called Sales. So you can set the group called Office includes Supervisor 2, User 3, User 4, and User 5. And they are listed individually also as users because this screen allows you to set up a shared email account. In cases if you have a shared email account, you can link that email account to the user, to the group, of users. So you can have an email account which you configure here for the group called Office. Or you can have email account for individual users even if they are a member of a group. So for example, user 1, user 3, because user 3 is a member of a group. User 3 is listed here, and this indicates, the group option here indicates that user 3 is a member of a group. So, of the group called Office. So for user 3, you could select that. Well, you don't have to tick the select button for this, but you could come down here and then fill out the options, the email options for that user. For users who are not members of groups, including the administrator, it works the same way too. So basically, all the users are listed and the groups are listed as well. That's why you have 14 entries. It's the 12 user accounts, which are here, plus the 2 group accounts. 12 and 2 make 14. Now, the way in which the screen works is very similar to the database access, menu access, and report access sections. Similar, but not 100% the same. Basically, it begins by choosing the group or the user for whom you want to configure the rights. And then in the section below here, you apply the settings. And there's some options here which I'm going to explain. You begin by highlighting the person, the group or the user for which you want to configure the email account. I have highlighted the existing one for Steve Corbin so that you can see what the settings are like. Now it's basically you choose a client first of all, and at present there are 4 client options. You have MAPI, you have Microsoft Outlook, and you have 2 SMTP options, SMTP Fast Report and SMTP VB.net. If you choose MAPI, this will automatically send the email using your desktop email software. In my case, that is Thunderbird. For some other people, they may have Outlook, they may have there's lots of other email clients out there. So if you have a desktop software that's your default email software, choose Mappy. That's the easiest option of the lot. That's why it's at the top of the list too. That's one of the reasons why it's at the top of the list, apart from the fact that the list is alphabetical. But you can choose Mappy. That's all you have to do, other than also putting in your sender name. Now, in this case, I've just put steve@gray-notes.bb, but that could be accounts department. Okay. Or it could just be Steve. But a name is required. You must have a name to go out on the email. So I'll just go back there and refresh my display again. So you've got the client, you've got the sender name. Now under those two options, you have a list of the SMTP settings. Now these are not required for Mappy and Microsoft Outlook, so you can leave these blank. There's no point in filling these out, if you're using Mappy or Microsoft Outlook, with Microsoft Outlook being the desktop version of Outlook. You can, if you have, there are some customers for whom they may use Microsoft Outlook. We've had some cases of this, customers that use Microsoft Outlook, but they have more than one account configured in Outlook. And if that's the case and they want the email to go to a particular email account, to go out by a particular email account, not necessarily the default account, what they would do is type the email account which they want to use in this box here. Okay. So that would work for, I know it works for Microsoft Outlook. It probably would do this. I think, well, I'm not sure of every Mappy client. I just use Thunderbird myself, so I can't speak for other programs, but there are some which handle the default email account in various ways. So by and large, if you're using Mappy or Microsoft Outlook, you do not need to set the SMTP settings. The SMTP settings are required only for the two options here, SMTP options. They're not required for Mappy and Outlook Express. You could fill them out if you wanted to, but they don't do anything really, unless you have a default email, unless you have more than one email account and you want to send by that particular email address in your email client software, your desktop email software. So for Mappy, you fill out these, you click the save button, and that's the end of it. So if for user 1, if I wanted to set up a Mappy account for user 1, let's find user 1. Where are you? Here you are. I put my client say to Mappy. I put the sender name as user 1. This could be the person's real name, the user's real name can go here if they want to. And you click save, and that's it. Okay. This user 1 now has an email account configured, and they can now email documents from within the software. That's very easy. Now let's do it for a group called Office. Let's say the office was sending out pay slips for the payroll section. So you could come here. I could choose Mappy again, which is what I'll do here. But in this case, I won't put a person's name. I will just put payroll department. So that is your sender name. When the emails go, they come from, it will say payroll department. Likewise, I save that, and now I have 3 email accounts configured. Very, very easy. Now, it's a little bit more complicated if you have SMTP set up. I'm going to choose user 2, excuse me, and I'm going to give that person, I'm going to configure that person for SMTP. Now, for SMTP, you need to know these email credentials for the email account outside of the software. So you're going to want the email address, you're going to want the host name of the email server, you need the port, and that host name is the outgoing email server, not the incoming email server. you want the port number for that host. You need a username and the password, and there's an option as to whether you're to enable SSL or not. Various different email services and email servers will have different options. So you need to know what the options are. And typically with SMTP, this information will come from your IT support people for the company. Okay, whether they're internal IT support or external IT support, is usually through an IT support person that all of this is configured. Often it's going to be company emails that are going to be used here, and that's what's required there. Now, sometimes you may want to use an email service such as Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail. There are certain settings for those accounts, and if you want assistance in setting those up, please contact our 4 support staff. Visit our website. If you don't know who they are, go to the contacts page and look for them. There are 4 of them, as I said, at present, and they will assist you in getting that done. You can also go, in the case of Gmail, you would go to the Gmail account online, and there's account settings in there where you would find the host, which is the server name, the port number, etc. Those can be found from there. In some cases too, you may have to turn on certain settings in Gmail to allow emails to be sent from external programs such as PayPak, Professional, and the other Greynote software products which have this email settings feature. I would also mention that you can use SMTP if you have an Outlook account. If you go into Outlook, or you go into your if I go into Thunderbird, if I go into Outlook, there are sections in there where I could go and find the same server settings. I don't have to do that if they're installed on my desktop, but I'm just letting you know it's possible that you could have the email settings come from an Outlook account or a Thunderbird account, which may or may not be necessarily installed on your computer, and you can configure it as an SMTP options. Right, choose one of the SMTP options and put those credentials in here. Okay, so if you choose MAPI or Microsoft Outlook, you don't need to concern yourself about the SMTP settings. They are assigned indirectly by piggybacking on top of Outlook or Thunderbird or whatever desktop email software you use. If you choose the SMTP options, either one of these, or there may be more in future, you must know what these settings are, because if I click here and I hit save, it will tell me a sender name is required. Let's just put user2. And if I click save again, it's going to tell me no blanks allowed. That's for the email address, 1@2.com. I've got an email address there now, and it saved it. It has no host and no port. It will never work for SMTP because you need a host name. It does allow you to save it though, because you can save it temporarily and then come back. You may not have the host information at the point in time where you're configuring it, so you can set it up and then come back later and fill in the host information. But the email address is required for SMTP. That's the one that it validates when you're saving. Now, what if you want to set options for multiple people? Normally by default, when you come here, you are saving the options for one person. But say I wanted for supervisor 2 straight through to supervisor 1, all the members of the office and the sales, I wanted to set up these same options here. Now that's where this all settings comes in. This list of settings actually comes in. these settings, there's an entry in this grid for each entry over here. Okay, and what I could do is if I select these fellows here, I just tick them, select them. I've now selected 8. If I want to copy the SMTP options for user 2, I highlight user 2, I click on copy. This enables the paste button, and if I click the paste button, it will copy the fields that are ticked in this list to those users. Right now nothing is ticked. I either have to tick all settings to turn everything on, or I can tick only certain ones. Say I want the same client as user 2. I may not want the same user name, the sender name, but I want the same email. I want the same host and port and username and password and the option there, because I will give each one a separate sender name. So I select the options, the settings that I want to copy, and I paste them, and it says all settings must be selected when adding new email accounts. So I have to put the sender name because that's required, because these are not yet. I've only got 4 email accounts, 1, 2, 3, 4. The ones I've chosen, they do not have accounts. So I turn on the sender, click on paste, and now that information is now copied. I could now come here and update the names. This is supervisor 2, so I put supervisor 2. Oh, that was quick. Save this. Then we go to user 5. I make you user 5. And we save you. Then this is user 4. So this is quicker than having to type all the options, because they might have had options in here. They're all going to go to 1@2.com as their email address. We've got user 5. And we save that. We've got Jane Doe. And we save that. We've got John Doe. And let's say he prefers to be referred to as Johnny D. Johnny D. It doesn't have to be his real name, but if I want to, that could be the name that goes out. And we could say in this case, ABC Company. This could be the or payroll department or something of that sort. See? Right. So I could. That's an example of how you can configure the sender name. Then Michael Smith, and he's in the sales department actually, and so is John Doe. So I'll just change that to say sales department. Not that it matters, but you know, it's just showing you for the sake of the demo how it works. So Johnny D belongs to the sales department. Just come back here and edit it. Show you how to do the correction. You've got in sales supervisor 1, and for the supervisor I could just put sales department without mentioning any specific name. And that's it for the ones that we'd selected just now. So we now have 12 email accounts. If I wanted for the well, they're all the ones in groups right now, so there's no individual users left except for supervisor 3 and these 2 users here. Let's say I wanted to do user 1. I want to copy again. I want to copy the same information, but I just want to change some of the names. So let's say we wanted all of these to have the sender name being the sales department. Okay, so we'll put sales department, change that for the person, save them first. Okay, so they're now sales department. And then we're going to highlight these two. Highlight this fellow here. We're going to copy them. We have to add them first of all. I forgot actually. We didn't do that. Oh yeah, well that's fine. Copy. We've got all the selected and we paste and they're now in a sales department. Right. That's it because they're being added now. And that is basically it. So almost everyone in here now has an email account configured for them. And I'm going to sign in now as user 1. Where are you, user 1? There you are. And user 1 is set up with an account. So I'm going to log in as user 1. Click here. We say user 1. Enter the password. We click on login. And if we go to say the pay slips and we click the display button and we click on email, up comes the email and now user 1 has an account for them. Now that's their account. Now let's see if that user belonged to a group. I'm going to go back to the email settings. User 1 was not a member of a group as far as I'm aware. We have user 3 being a member of the office. Now the office, the sender name says payroll department. That's for user 3. The group they belong to says payroll department, which is a MAPI account. But for them individually as a user, for user 3, there's an account here with the sender name saying user 5, which that should really be user 3. That's correct, Pat. User 3. And we save it. And now, if I go to the email screen, remember I logged in as user 1. I now wish to close this and log in as user 3. So when I log in as user 3, user3, and there goes the password, and I log in. If I go to the same payslip screen, we click display the payslips, click on email. I'm not seeing anything for user 3. Oh yes, it's not, there are two accounts in there. The reason you don't see anything, the reason why it's blank is because there are two. So if there's only one account, it's selected automatically in the list. Where there's more than one account, the user then, where you see nothing, it's always good to click down and make sure. In this case, there's more than one account. The person can send the email either as a member of the group, which is the payroll department here, or they can send it as their own email, user 3. Okay? And they can, the message is there and they just click email and the message goes off. They can choose either one of those accounts which has been assigned, configured for them. So I'm going to close their login session for user 3, and that explains how this section works. We now have some buttons here, which I'm going to go through how the remainder of these buttons work. We have looked at the save button, which saves the entries as you put them in. The refresh button will refresh the screen in case somebody added new users or added changed the names in the user settings or put someone in a different group or deleted someone. There's an all and none button. The all button will select everyone. So you've got 14 selected. The none button will turn everyone off. If you're working on a particular set of people at a time, so you want to do these, those 6 employees, those 6 of the 8, the invert button will toggle the selection. So now you have the ones that were on before are now off, and vice versa. If I click it again, it switches the other way around. The copy and paste, we showed you how that works here. You can copy the settings for a user and paste it to someone else. The delete is used to delete the email accounts. So I am going to select all of them. And even if it ticks on one that does not have a client, no harm done because there's nothing to delete, but it will still select it anyway. The only one I'm going to keep is the original one for this person here. So I'm going to be deleting the email accounts that are there. Normally you may just want to delete one or two at a time. I am going, if I hit delete, it will delete those. I wonder if I should keep them for a future demo. It's not that difficult to set them up. So we say delete, and as you can see, they're now gone. And the users no longer would have, those users no longer have any email option available to them. So that's how you could turn off the email capability for a particular employee. And that brings us to the end of this demo. Let's just do a recap. At the top, you've got the server name, the database name, whether the selected record is for a group or a user. That's from this list of groups and users. In this case, the user ID and the username. How many are selected, which is the checkbox here. A count of how many email accounts are currently set up in the system. And that's just one because that's where you have an entry in the client ID. We've gone through the options for the client, the various settings here, MAPI, Microsoft Outlook, SMTP, Fast Report, and SMTP VB.net. We may add more as time goes by. This list may be modified. I used to do some tests before, and at that point in time, there was one of these which I cannot remember, but one of these was significantly faster than the other. But that may have changed because technology changes very quickly. So what you may find with the two SMTP options is you might want to try one first, see how that goes, and then you try another one. You may find that one of them works better for you than another because different email servers will have different types of configurations. Sometimes you get, for the most part, either one should work, but you may find the occasional case where it works for one option, but it does not work for another. So if you are sending emails using SMTP and you encounter a problem and our IT staff may be unable to find the solution to it, one of the things that you can do is to try changing the SMTP client and see if that makes any difference for you. As I said, there are other options here. We looked at those. There's the all settings here, and there's the buttons here. This video button is for this video, which you're hearing right now. So if you come back to this screen, if you're in the software, you're at this screen, and there's something that you cannot remember, click on the video button. That will open your browser and take you to the YouTube video where you can run through everything that you've just heard. So thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure as always to present these training videos to you. If you are using these settings, you are most likely in charge of the security for your organization, and in that case we highly recommend that you also become familiar with the training videos for database access, menu access, and report access, as well as this one for the email settings, and indeed the other video on logins, groups, and users, and the video for security in general. Thank you very much for your time, and see you in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.